it. I didn't feel like I was a wife. I felt like I was Bob's background vocal. So there are little things that I would have to remind him, hey, Bob.
Bob Marley's daughter has finally spoken out and confirmed the long-standing rumors surrounding her legendary father. In this video, we'll dive into the truth behind the stories that have circulated for years about Bob Marley's life, legacy, and personal journey. But before we get into these long-standing rumors, let's take a deep dive into the life of this beloved legend, from his rise to fame to his resilience against various forms of adversities. Bob Marley, whose full name was Robert Nesta Marley, was born on February 6, 1945, in the small rural village of 9 Mile in St. Ann Parish, Jamaica. His background was a blend of different cultures that shaped both his childhood and his future in music. His mother, Sadella Malcolm, was an 18-year-old Afro-Jamaican woman, while his father, Norval Sinclair Marley, was a white Jamaican of English descent. Norval was much older than Sadella and was mostly absent during Bob's early years. He had served in the British Army and worked as a land supervisor, but he offered little support and passed away when Bob was just 10 years old. Most of Bob's childhood was spent living on his grandfather Omariah Malcolm's farm in 9 Mile. Omariah practiced traditional Afro-Jamaican spiritual customs and became a strong influence on Bob's life. He introduced him to music and shared local wisdom that would later show up in Bob's lyrics. Life in 9 Mile was simple but tough. Bob lived a rural life, helping out by herding goats for his aunt and doing chores until he was about 12 years old. Around that age, Bob and his mother moved to Trenchtown, a poor but lively neighborhood in Kingston, the capital of Jamaica. Trenchtown was known for its tough living conditions, with crowded housing, open sewers, and regular violence. But it was also a hotbed of creativity, where Bob discovered new music like ska and American rhythm and blues playing on local radio stations. His musical journey started to take shape thanks to local musician Joe Higgs, who taught Bob how to play guitar and harmonize vocals. By the time he was 16, Bob had met other young musicians, including Desmond Decker and Jimmy Cliff, who helped him connect with producer Leslie Kong. In 1962, Marley recorded his first solo songs, including one called Judge Not. Although these songs did not become hits, they marked the beginning of his professional music career. In 1963, Bob formed a vocal group with his friends Bunny Wailer and Peter Tosh. They first called themselves the Teenagers, then the Wailing Wailers, and eventually just the Wailers. Their breakthrough came in 1964 with the song Simmer Down, produced by Coxsone Dodd at Studio One. The single sold about 70,000 copies and became a #1 hit in Jamaica, putting them on the map. While the group originally had more members, by 1906 it was mainly Bob, Bunny, and Peter who remained. During this time, the Wailers worked with several well-known Jamaican musicians, including arranger Ernest Ranglin and keyboardist Jackie Mittoo. They began shaping their unique sound, moving from ska and rocksteady toward the reggae style that would define them. Bob also started learning about Rastafarianism, a spiritual movement that would have a powerful impact on both his music and personal philosophy. Before he found success in music, he had to take on various jobs to support himself. In the early 1960s, he did odd jobs in Kingston and later moved to the United States. He stayed with his mother and relatives in Wilmington, Delaware, where he worked as a welder, a lab assistant at the DuPont Chemical Company, and on the night shift at a Chrysler factory. These experiences gave him a deep understanding of the struggles faced by working-class people, which would later become a powerful theme in his songs. As his music career began to take shape, Marley collaborated with other artists and producers. He worked with pop singer Johnny Nash, who had a hit with Bob's song Stir It Up. He also teamed up with producer Lee Scratch Perry, creating tracks like Trenchtown Rock and Soul Rebel, which helped define the sound of reggae. Although Marley faced financial difficulties and setbacks during this time, his determination and evolving musical style set the stage for his rise to global fame. That breakthrough came in the early 1970s, when Bob Marley and the Wailers signed with Island Records. Their albums Catch a Fire and Burnin', both released in 1973, introduced reggae music to international audiences. The song I Shot the Sheriff, later covered by Eric Clapton, reached #1 in the United States. This era marked a shift in the group's sound, moving from ska and rocksteady to a more polished reggae style filled with spiritual and social messages inspired by Rastafarian beliefs. Marley also relocated to London during this time, which helped expand his reach. In 1974, after Peter Tosh and Bunny Wailer left the group, Marley continued under the name Bob Marley and the Wailers. He brought in his wife Rita and two other backup singers, forming a trio called the I-Threes. That same year, the album Natty Dread was released to wide acclaim and cemented Marley's reputation as a solo artist. His 1975 live album, simply titled Live, featured No Woman No Cry, which became his first major international hit and broadened his fan base even further. Despite growing fame, Marley faced serious challenges along the way. The group struggled with financial instability and unfair contracts, a common issue for many artists in Jamaica's music industry at the time. One example of this was the collapse of their independent label, Waylon Soul M, in 1968. The Wailers had started the label to take more control of their music, but without enough money or resources, they couldn't keep it going. This setback revealed just how hard it was for Jamaican musicians to succeed on their own in a system that often worked against them. Another difficult moment came in 1972, when the Wailers signed with CBS Records. The deal seemed like a step forward, especially with help from Johnny Nash, who connected them to the label. Marley and the Wailers traveled to London to promote their new single, Reggae on Broadway, hoping it would boost their international presence. But CBS quickly lost interest in the group and offered little support. The single flopped, and the band was left stranded in London, short on money and unsure of their next move. During a tough time in London, the Wailers were in a difficult situation. They hardly performed, managing only one full concert and a charity show to raise money for a swimming pool. Bob Marley did a few solo shows opening for Johnny Nash, which may have created tension within the band. It also showed that the management was focusing more on Marley as an individual rather than supporting the group as a whole. Without enough money or promotion from CBS, the Wailers struggled to stay afloat and keep their momentum going while abroad. Things began to turn around when they met Chris Blackwell, the founder of Island Records. He saw real potential in them and gave them £4,000, which was a big deal for a Jamaican group at the time. This money helped them return to Jamaica and record a full album, not just a single. Blackwell believed in their long-term success, something CBS hadn't shown. His support played a key role in launching the Wailers' international career and led to the creation of some of reggae's most influential albums. But the challenges didn't stop there. In December 1976, Bob Marley survived an attempted assassination that reflected the tense political situation in Jamaica. On the night of December 3rd, just 2 days before the Smile Jamaica concert, 7 armed men stormed his home in Kingston. They opened fire on everyone inside. Marley was hit in the chest and arm, his wife Rita was shot in the head, and his manager Don Taylor was seriously wounded in his torso and legs. Despite the number of bullets and the damage to the house, no one was killed. The attack had clear political roots. Marley's music and public image were often seen as supportive of the People's National Party, led by Michael Manley, even though Marley tried to remain neutral. Many believe the Jamaica Labour Party, led by Edward Seaga, was behind the attack. There were even rumors that the CIA was involved, trying to stop Marley's growing influence. The tension was especially high because the Smile Jamaica concert was meant to promote peace between the two rival parties. Even with his injuries, Marley showed incredible courage by performing at the Smile Jamaica concert on December 5th. Rita Marley appeared on stage with a bandage around her head, and Bob performed even though he couldn't play his guitar. Their presence sent a powerful message of strength and unity in a time of deep political division. It made Marley not just a music icon, but a symbol of hope and resilience. However, the assassination attempt also forced Marley to leave Jamaica. He went back to London, where he recorded Exodus in 1967. The album was both a critical and commercial success, staying on the British charts for 56 weeks. It featured some of his most famous songs like Jamming, 3 Little Birds, and One Love, which helped him become a global superstar. He returned to Jamaica in 1978 and continued using his music to speak out on political and social issues. That same year, he organized the One Love Peace concert, where he famously brought together 2 rival political leaders on stage in a powerful moment of unity. He followed up with albums like Kaya in 1978 and Survival in 1979. While Kaya had a more relaxed tone, Survival focused on Pan-African pride and political resistance. In 1980, Marley traveled to Zimbabwe to perform in celebration of the country's independence, showing his deep support for African freedom movements. He also started a tour in the United States that year to connect with African American fans. He played at major venues, including Madison Square Garden, but this time also marked the start of serious health problems. Marley was diagnosed with a rare type of skin cancer called acral lentiginous melanoma. It started under the nail of his right big toe and was first thought to be a soccer injury. A biopsy later confirmed it was cancer. Doctors advised Marley to have his toe amputated to stop the cancer from spreading. However, due to his Rastafarian faith, which views the body as sacred and opposes amputation, he chose not to go through with it. Instead, he had the nail and surrounding tissue removed and received a skin graft from his thigh. While this approach honored his beliefs, the cancer continued to spread. Despite the diagnosis, Marley kept touring and performing. He released the album Uprising in 1980 and went on a major European tour, including a huge show at San Siro Stadium in Milan that drew 100,000 people. His final outdoor concert was in Dublin that July. He also played 2 shows at Madison Square Garden in New York City during the Uprising tour. However, in September 1980, he collapsed while jogging in Central Park. Tests revealed that the cancer had spread to his brain, lungs, and liver. As his condition worsened, Marley had to cancel the rest of his world tour. Hoping for a cure, he traveled to Germany for a special treatment called the Issels therapy, which included strict diets and other alternative methods. Sadly, the cancer kept spreading. Bob Marley died on May 11, 1981, at just 36 years old. Even though his life ended early, his music and message continued to inspire people around the world. In '94, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In '99, Time magazine named his album Exodus the Album of the Century, and the BBC honored his song One Love as the Song of the Millennium. These awards reflect the powerful and lasting influence he had on music and culture. If you are enjoying this video, appreciate it by giving it a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. While Bob Marley's career was legendary, his personal life was a very different story. His relationship with his wife, Rita Marley, was complex and layered. They first met in the 1960s in Jamaica, when Rita was a teenager singing with the Solettes, a vocal group that performed with Bob's band, the Wailers. Their friendship turned into a romantic relationship, and they got married on February 10, 1906, shortly after Bob's 21st birthday. In her memoir, No Woman, No Cry, My Life with Bob Marley, Rita shares how their bond deepened over time, especially after Bob showed love and care for her daughter Sharon, whom he later adopted. Rita also played an important role in Bob's music. She became part of the I-Threes, the trio of backup singers who supported Bob Marley and the Wailers. Her voice added depth to his sound and helped bring reggae music to audiences around the world. Still, their marriage was far from simple. Bob had several relationships with other women during their marriage and fathered children outside of it. Rita also had children from earlier relationships and gave birth to others while married to Bob. Their relationship did not follow traditional rules, but by many accounts, it was something they both accepted. Rita once explained that to cope with Bob's infidelities, she began to view him more as a brother and father figure than a traditional husband. Despite their struggles, Bob remained a loving father and close friend to Rita. There were difficult moments, such as when Rita once denied him intimacy as a protest against his affairs, which led to tension between them. Still, they stayed together until his death, and Rita stood by him both personally and professionally. Together, Bob and Rita had 3 children, Sadella, Ziggy, and Stephen Marley, all of whom have gone on to carry the Marley name forward in music and culture. In addition to adopting Sharon, Bob also adopted Stephanie, another daughter of Rita's, blending their family further. One of Bob Marley's well-known relationships outside his marriage was with Pat Williams, also known in some stories as Lucille Williams. She lived in Trenchtown, Jamaica, and became involved with Bob around 1970. Their relationship was passionate and had a creative impact on Bob's life. It also led to the birth of their son, Robert Robbie Marley, on May 16, 1972. The way Bob and Pat met is both personal and reflective of Bob's passionate nature. Some stories say Pat showed up one evening at Bob's home on 56 Hope Road and drew him in under the moonlight. That night made such an impression on Bob that he wrote the lyrics to Midnight Ravers the next morning, scribbling them down in a Kingston telephone book. Their relationship clearly fed into his music and creative process. Robbie Marley was born just weeks after Stephen Marley, another of Bob's children, showing how closely some of his relationships and family life overlapped. Though Pat wasn't as well known to the public as others in Bob's life, she still played a significant role in his story as the mother of one of his children. Robbie has mostly stayed out of the spotlight compared to his siblings, but he has occasionally spoken about his father and what it means to be part of the Marley legacy. After his birth, Robbie was raised by Rita Marley, Bob's wife, which was common in the Marley family. Many of the children from Bob's different relationships grew up together as part of one extended household. Bob also had a brief but important relationship with Janet Bowen, known as Janet from England. This relationship led to the birth of their daughter, Karen Marley, in 1973. Janet chose to have Karen raised in Jamaica, and she became part of the Marley family circle. Karen grew up with her great-grandmother in Harbor View, St. Andrew, and went to school with Stephanie Marley, another of Bob's daughters. Over time, Karen was welcomed into the wider Marley household, showing how Bob's children were often embraced as part of one extended family, regardless of the circumstances of their birth. One of Bob Marley's most famous relationships was his long-term romance with Cindy Breakspear. Their relationship lasted from about 1976 until Bob's death in 1981 and was widely talked about. Cindy, a Jamaican-Canadian jazz singer and former Miss World in 1976, met Bob in Kingston at a time when his fame was growing rapidly. Even though Bob was still married to Rita, his connection with Cindy revealed the many layers of his personal life and the deep bonds he formed. Cindy and Bob first met in the mid-1970s when she lived near 56 Hope Road, where Bob and his band, the Wailers, often practiced. What began as simple chats soon turned into a romantic relationship. Cindy has described their connection as natural and magnetic, even though they faced many social and cultural challenges. Being a light-skinned, uptown woman, she knew that dating a Rastafarian like Bob would raise some eyebrows. Still, she was drawn to his strong presence, sense of purpose, and the energy he carried. Their relationship crossed social boundaries and challenged norms, but for Cindy, Bob was a man on a mission, deeply committed to his music and his beliefs. Their time together overlapped with Cindy's participation in the 1976 Miss World competition, a period when Marley's popularity was quickly spreading worldwide. Despite the complicated nature of their situation, especially since Marley had been married to Rita since 1906, the relationship lasted several years. In 1907, Cindy became pregnant, and the following year, she gave birth to Damian Marley. Like his father, Damian grew up to become a successful reggae artist in his own right. Cindy has shared that she found out Marley was married only after becoming pregnant, a truth she learned from Marley's mother. Although he had initially denied it, Cindy eventually came to terms with the situation and focused on raising her son. As Marley's health declined in his final years, Cindy, Rita, and Bob found themselves in a unique and emotionally intense situation. Instead of allowing jealousy to take over, both women chose to support him through his battle with acral lentiginous melanoma. Cindy has recalled how she and Rita took turns caring for Marley, putting aside past tensions to focus on his well-being. Their cooperation and shared concern showed a deep level of respect and emotional maturity, highlighting how love and compassion can prevail even in the most complicated circumstances. Beyond her personal story, Cindy Breakspear's relationship with Bob Marley held a deeper cultural meaning. Already well known in Jamaica as a beauty queen and public figure, Cindy's involvement with Marley challenged social norms around race, class, and Rastafarian beliefs. Some people in Jamaican society were critical of their relationship, disapproving of her being with a Rastafarian and of their interracial union. Despite the backlash, Cindy remained confident and proud. She has continued to speak warmly about Marley, honoring his memory and celebrating the success of their son, Damian. Over time, she has shared more about their life together, showing how their love not only shaped their personal lives, but also left a mark on Jamaican culture. Shifting focus to Bob Marley's children, his eldest daughter, Sadella Marley, offers a unique perspective on life as part of the legendary musician's family. Sadella often says that being his daughter is a central part of who she is. In interviews, she has explained, "I don't know how to be anybody else's daughter. I'm just used to being his daughter and my mom's daughter." She talks about the responsibility that comes with the Marley name, emphasizing that her father believed life wasn't just about yourself, but about making a difference. He stood for unity and the idea of one love, and Sadella feels she and her siblings carry that message forward through their own work and lives. Sadella also remembers some of the challenges they faced growing up, Living in Trenchtown, they were sometimes judged by other parents who didn't approve of their lifestyle. She described it as a place where people would say things like, "All your parents do is take substances and play music." Still, despite that negative judgment, Sadella looks back on her childhood with fondness. She recalls lots of running and racing with her siblings and her father, who was highly competitive and gave everything he did his all, what she calls 110%. In 20, during a virtual conversation, Sadella talked about her project Redemption, a collection of her father's speeches and writings. She spoke about how his messages of activism and hope are still powerful and important today. Being the firstborn in the Marley family, Sadella was raised with strong Rastafarian values, something her father deeply believed in. These ideas helped shape her identity and future path. As a child, she also experienced migration, moving with her family to Wilmington, Delaware, in the United States. This move became part of the story she told in her children's book, Marley and the Family Band. In the book, she shares what it felt like to be a migrant child, adapting to a new place while carrying the spirit of music and love from her Jamaican roots. The story highlights themes of family, change, and resilience. Sadella's career took off in the late 1980s when she became part of the family music group Ziggy Marley and the Melody Makers. The group, formed at the request of their father Bob Marley, included Sadella, her brothers Ziggy and Stephen, and their sister Sharon. What began as a tribute to their father's musical legacy soon grew into a successful career of its own. Sadella performed as a vocalist, while Ziggy led the group and Stephen contributed to both writing and performing. Over the course of more than 2 decades, the Melody Makers released over 10 albums, won Grammy Awards, and delivered hit songs like Tumblin' Down, Tomorrow People, and Power to Move Ya. Through their music, the Marley children not only honored their father, but also made a name for themselves, carrying reggae music and its message of unity to audiences around the world. Sadella didn't stop at the music. She branched out into acting and producing, appearing in films like The Mighty Quinn, 1989, alongside Denzel Washington, and later starring in Joey Breaker, 1993. More recently, she has taken on production roles, particularly with projects that preserve her father's legacy, such as the 24 film Bob Marley, One Love. Her involvement in these projects shows how dedicated she is to sharing her father's story with new generations. Outside of the entertainment world, Sadella has also made her mark as a businesswoman and author. She serves as the CEO of Tough Gong International, the Marley family's record label and cultural brand, where she plays a key role in preserving and promoting her father's music and message. As an author, Sadella has written several children's books inspired by her life and her family's journey. Her stories often focus on themes like family, migration, and the power of music, aiming to inspire young readers and celebrate the values her father stood for. On a personal note, Sadella has been married to Danny Minto since 1993, and they have 3 children together, including Skip Marley, who is following in the family footsteps as a reggae artist. Her life continues to reflect a deep commitment to family, music, and cultural legacy. While Sadella had the chance to grow up around her father and experience his influence firsthand, Karen Marley's perspective is shaped by a different experience. Karen was only 8 years old when Bob Marley passed away, and she didn't live with him during his lifetime. As a result, much of what she knows about her father came after his death. She describes him as a larger-than-life figure, and is often struck by the admiration people around the world still have for him. What amazes her most is how young fans, many of whom weren't even born when he was alive, feel such a strong connection to his music and message. Sharon Marley, Bob's eldest daughter with Rita Marley, also reflects deeply on her father's legacy. She speaks with pride about carrying forward the musical and cultural heritage passed down by both her parents. Sharon feels a strong sense of responsibility to uphold the values her father stood for, which were messages of peace, unity, and social change that remain relevant today. Sharon Marley's love for music began early in life and naturally led her to join her siblings in Ziggy Marley and the Melody Makers. While she found success in music, Sharon also explored acting. In 1989, she appeared in the film The Mighty Quinn as the character Jody, and her music was featured on the movie's soundtrack. Her song, I'm Hurting Inside, which included performances by Cheryl Lee Ralph and Sadella Marley, showcased her talent for combining heartfelt storytelling with soulful melodies. After the Melody Makers wrapped up their final tour and disbanded in 2002, Sharon turned her focus to preserving culture and giving back through education and advocacy. She took on the role of curator at the Bob Marley Museum in Kingston, where she works to keep her father's legacy alive. She also leads the Total Care Learning Center in Kingston, showing her strong commitment to education and community support. Sharon's dedication extends beyond these roles. She is involved with Ghetto Youth United, a Caribbean business that supports the Melody Makers, and she plays an important part in its record label as an artist and repertoire coordinator, helping to discover and develop new artists while continuing the Marley musical tradition. In more recent years, Sharon has returned to her musical roots as a solo artist. Her singles, Just One More Morning in 21 and Butterflies in the Sky in 22 mark her renewed creative energy and show her deep connection to music and her family's heritage. Her journey as a singer, dancer, curator, and advocate paints a picture of a dynamic individual whose life blends creativity with cultural leadership. Outside of her professional work, Sharon is also a devoted mother to 4 children, including Donisha Prendergast, a filmmaker and activist. Her strong ties to family, along with her passion for education and cultural preservation, show that Sharon is not just an artist, she is a leader and a keeper of the Marley legacy. She also practices yoga and meditation every day, which reflects a balanced and spiritual lifestyle rooted in the values passed down from her family. Together, Bob Marley's daughters describe their father as more than just a musical legend. To them, he was also a complex and deeply human parent. Despite his demanding career and complicated personal life, he passed down values of love, resilience, and social awareness. Ziggy Marley once said their father could be rough and not overly affectionate, yet he had a heart as hard as stone and as soft as water. This reflects the many sides of his personality. What are your thoughts on Bob Marley's relationship with his daughters? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest content.